Vietnam has established a national strategy and legal framework aimed at achieving sustainable development goals. This comprehensive approach outlines policies and regulations designed to foster economic growth while ensuring environmental protection and social equity. The strategy includes measures to enhance resource efficiency, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and promote green investment, reflecting Vietnam's commitment to sustainable development and alignment with global environmental standards. Vietnam is committed to reducing emissions through several key policies and strategies. The Law on Environmental Protection 2020 and Decree 06/2022/NDCP outline regulations for environmental protection. The National Strategy on Climate Change and NDC 2022 set goals for achieving net zero by 2050 and developing carbon markets. The country is also focused on climate mitigation and adaptation under the Paris Agreement. Specific initiatives include Decision 942/QDTTG for reducing methane emissions, Decision 500/QDTTG for advancing renewable energy, and Decision 1693/QDBNNKHCN for implementing NDCs in agriculture. The Ministry of Finance is working on developing Vietnam's carbon market, and Directive No. 13/CTTTG, May 2, 2024, aims to enhance carbon credit management to meet NDC commitments. Vietnam signed the Paris Agreement in 2015 and initially set an intended nationally determined contribution, INDC, with an emission reduction target of 8% nationally and 25% with international support. In its 2020 NDC, the target was updated to a 9% reduction nationally and 27% with international support. The 2022 NDC further increased the target to a 15.8% reduction nationally and 43.5% with international support. Carbon emissions in Vietnam are significantly impacted by deforestation and forest degradation, but efforts are underway to mitigate these effects. Enhanced forest management practices include extensive forest plantations, the rehabilitation of special-use forests, and the protection of coastal forests. These measures aim to increase carbon absorption, reduce emissions, and safeguard biodiversity, contributing to the country's broader environmental and climate goals. Emission reduction measures in forestry and land use in Vietnam include 1. Protecting existing natural forests in mountainous areas, F1, 2. Safeguarding coastal forests, F2, 3. Rehabilitating and protecting special use and protection forests, F3, 4. Enhancing the carbon stock and quality of naturally poor forests, F4, 5. Increasing productivity in carbon stocks in large timber plantations, F5, 6. Expanding agroforestry models to boost carbon stocks and soil conservation, F6, and 7. Implementing sustainable forest management practices and forest certification, F7. Under the 2021 to 2030 emission reduction measures, Vietnam has the potential to achieve a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Without external support, the country could reduce emissions by 82 million tons of CO2 equivalent, MTCO2e. With additional support, this potential increases to 104 metric tons CO2e. In total, the combined emission reduction potential is 186 metric tons CO2e, demonstrating the substantial impact of both domestic efforts and international assistance in achieving the country's climate goals. Vietnam has several promising opportunities to advance its climate goals and enhance sustainability. The Just Energy Transition Partnership, JETP, and climate finance initiatives offer crucial support for transitioning to cleaner energy sources. The World Bank's Emission Reductions Payment Agreements, ERPA, and REDD+ programs provide financial mechanisms to reduce emissions and protect forests. Additionally, the World Bank's Vietnam Sustainable Agriculture Transformation Project, VNSAT, focuses on improving agricultural practices for sustainability. ESG, environmental, social, and governance, investments are becoming increasingly important, providing funding for green projects. Moreover, the multi-billion-dollar carbon credits ecosystem presents significant opportunities for generating revenue while reducing emissions, aligning economic growth with environmental stewardship. Under the business-as-usual (BAU) scenario, Vietnam's greenhouse gas emissions are projected to be substantial across several key sectors. The energy sector, largely due to continued reliance on fossil fuels, is the primary contributor. Agriculture adds to emissions through practices such as livestock production and rice cultivation. Land use change, and forestry, LULUCF, contribute emissions from deforestation and land degradation. The industry sector, with its manufacturing and chemical processes, also plays a significant role. Lastly, waste management produces methane and other gases from landfills and treatment processes. These sectors together represent a major source of emissions, highlighting the urgent need for targeted mitigation strategies. Vietnam's national greenhouse gas emissions can be assessed under both unconditional and conditional contributions. Unconditional contributions reflect the reductions the country can achieve with its own resources and policies, covering major sectors such as energy, agriculture, LULUCF, industry, and waste. These efforts represent Vietnam's internal capacity to mitigate emissions. Conditional contributions, on the other hand, represent additional reductions that can be achieved with external support and international cooperation. This support would enhance Vietnam's capacity to further reduce emissions across the same sectors, particularly through increased financial and technical assistance. The distinction between these contributions highlights the critical role of global collaboration in enabling Vietnam to meet its climate targets effectively. Carbon markets are categorized into mandatory and voluntary systems. In the mandatory market, carbon pricing ranges from $3 to $138 per ton of CO2, regulated by national policies such as carbon taxes, emission quotas, and emission trading systems, ETS, typically applied within a country. In contrast, the voluntary market features lower carbon prices, ranging from $2.50 to $7 per ton of CO2, and involves voluntary interorganizational trading, VCM, based on compliance with carbon standards. This market also includes bilateral and multilateral carbon trading mechanisms, such as the Joint Credit Mechanism, JCM, which operate under established carbon standards. These markets offer diverse approaches to carbon pricing and trading, reflecting different levels of regulatory requirements and market dynamics. In the voluntary carbon market, carbon trading projects in forestry and land use encompass several types. REDD+, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, projects focus on avoiding planned deforestation and improving forest management to conserve existing forests. Other projects include planting new forests and reforestation, which aim to increase carbon sequestration through new tree growth. Improved forest management initiatives enhance the carbon storage capacity of existing forests. Additionally, projects in sustainable agriculture and agroforestry integrate trees with farming practices to boost carbon storage and soil health. These diverse project types contribute to carbon reduction and environmental sustainability within the voluntary market. In the carbon market, several standards guide carbon trading activities. The VCS, Verified Carbon Standard, established in 2007, dominates with 90% of transactions, covering afforestation, reforestation, improved forest management, and wetland conservation. Architecture for REDD+ transactions, introduced in 2021, focuses on reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and increasing carbon absorption through forest restoration. The Gold Standard, established in 2003, emphasizes activities like afforestation and reforestation for greenhouse gas absorption. In 2014, the CCBA, Climate, Community, and Biodiversity Alliance, was introduced, addressing emissions reductions and carbon absorption from various activities including agroforestry. Plan Vivo targets emissions reductions from deforestation and degradation, as well as restoring and managing forests and wetlands to enhance carbon sequestration. In the voluntary carbon market, carbon projects must adhere to various general requirements set by different carbon standards. These include defining appropriate activities, such as afforestation or reforestation, establishing a reference period and credit period, and addressing carbon sinks and greenhouse gases involved. Projects must follow specific measurement, calculation, and reporting methods, manage risks like displacement and emission reversal, and ensure complementarity by balancing emission reductions with increased carbon absorption. Additionally, standards require the assessment of uncertainty to validate the accuracy and reliability of carbon credits. Vietnam is developing its carbon market through a phased approach. The legal framework is set to be completed between 2023 and 2024, including regulations for carbon exchange, quotas, and carbon credits, alongside building infrastructure and management capacities. A pilot phase from 2025 to 2027 will focus on establishing a trading platform, enhancing management and operational capacities, and finalizing the legal and infrastructural setup. Official operations are planned to start in 2028, with activities aimed at connecting with regional and international markets. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment will allocate emission quotas to greenhouse gas emitters, while carbon credits will be generated from programs and projects in line with both domestic and international regulations.